Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sisha Maharaj. I am a senior consultant at Devant, and I will be your host. Thank you for joining us today with QuadReal under Ask Our Recruiter Employer Insights. So before we start, just a little bit about me. I work here at Devant, and I work with universities and colleges to scale up career development skills and labor force skills using AI and online learning. And I'm also here to support building professional connections with employers and students. And this is being hosted by Devant. So for some of you that are not familiar, Devant is a subsidiary of Academica. And for over 20 years, they're the largest company providing research and consulting expertise to colleges and universities. And Devant's mission is to help students and graduates get hired and be successful in Canada. And we specifically try to remove barriers and support international students and newcomers. The word Devant actually literally means to be in front of. So we believe that our services will bring students in front of their journey to work and succeed in Canada. So a little bit of housekeeping as we're all joining today. You are muted. However, you don't need to use your video. The session is recorded, and I'm going to invite you to post your questions in the Q&A function at any time. I will get to the questions at the end of the session, and I'm going to prioritize those questions that come in first and are most relevant to the group here. Also, just to let you know, we've got all of our October events are posted and September events on www.devant.ca/all events. So far, Devant has hosted about 500 online events on a weekly basis, and we support over 48,000 job seekers from across Canada. And we are also expanding our employer relationships with 30 plus employers, as well as cities and regions in the Ontario region. So without further ado, I would love to welcome our two guests this evening. Please join me in welcoming Jodi Fluker, Manager Talent Acquisition, and Jennifer Husband, Manager Early Talent. I'm so excited to get this conversation going with both of you. And before we get into our questions, I would also just like to take this time to acknowledge the land where I am residing for this webinar. I'm actually in the region of Durham in Ontario, and we exist on the lands of the Mississauga, Sagig, Anishinaabe, inhabited for thousands of years prior to European colonization. These lands are the traditional and territory treaty lands and nations covered under the Williams Treaties, including the Mississauga of Scugog Island First Nation, Alderville First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, Curve Lake First Nation, and the Chippewa Nations of Georgina Island, Bosole, and Rama. I honor, recognize, and respect our Indigenous peoples as right holders and stewards of the lands and waters on which we have the privilege to live. In our effort for reconciliation, we continue to build and strengthen relationships with First Nations, as well as large Métis communities and the growing Inuit communities here in Durham. So thank you so much for this precious opportunity to share this space with you all this evening. It's going to be a great conversation. This is a safe place for your questions. So please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. And as I mentioned, for those of you who are joining right now, please feel free to introduce yourself to students who are joining or participating here today. So I'd like to maybe pass the floor over to Jodi and Jennifer. Jodi, maybe I can ask you to go first. If you can please give us a short introduction to your firm and the role that you currently hold at QuadReal for students who are new to Canada and may have not had the opportunity to interact with you in QuadReal just yet.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so we're a global company based in Vancouver, mainly real estate. I guess that's kind of our core business. And we do assets under management all across many different countries. But in Canada, that's where like the bricks and mortar actual buildings are that we own and operate. Outside of Canada, for the most part, it's like a shared type model where we kind of are like part owners of them and asset managers. So you may see us doing large developments of shopping centers and office buildings and things like that. And then also we're starting to get into things like data centers and other alternative spaces. So exciting times for sure. I've been with the company for almost 8 years now and managed the talent acquisition team for full-time experienced hires.
Welcome, Judy. Thank you so much for that overview and that introduction. I'm sure you've got lots to share with students being at QuadReal for 8 years and having a lot of experience recruiting all different types of roles and functions. So welcome again. Thank you so much for being here this evening. And Jennifer, I'd love to hear from you as well. Please let us know, anything that you'd like to add about QuadReal and your role currently at QuadReal.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Just to add on to what was already said about QuadReal, to put a value, we manage over $77.6 billion of assets. So that's a lot spread across some of our countries, notable buildings. In your area, it could be something like Baby Village, for instance. Out here in Vancouver, it's like the Post where Amazon resides. Maybe you've heard about Oak Ridge Town Center being built. So those are the sorts of things that QuadReal is part of and helps to participate from ground up in some cases. I've been with QuadReal for 5 years now and in the early talent space. So starting in 2019, I helped really elevate and launch the internship co-op program here at QuadReal. Since I've been here, we've had over 300 students come through our program, some of which have stayed on, moved into full-time roles, and still are here today in one of our main offices. Our internships are across Canada, as well as we've branched into the US. Those roles are for students that are legally entitled to work in the US. I know I get that question a lot from those that are residing in Canada, but you do have to be legally entitled already to work in the US. But it's very exciting nonetheless, as all of our interns come together virtually to meet one another and network. So that really expands your own professional networks that way. That's about it to add.
Great. Wow. 300 interns. That's a huge accomplishment. Only being at QuadReal for 5 years, Jennifer. I know I've really admired seeing all of your posts on LinkedIn and all of the different offers that you have for students. So it's just wonderful to have a campus recruiter here to provide students with up-to-date and real information that can assist them, through the recruitment process. So thanks again so much for your time this evening. So I'd like to maybe start off with some really foundational information so students have an idea of the skills and knowledge that you're looking for. We have students from a diversity of programs, a lot of business admin students. I've noticed IT, computer science, engineering, a few healthcare and other programs as well. So Jodi, maybe you can share with us, like, what are some of the types of roles and skills that you look for in talent, and feel free to highlight, one function in particular, if that's really the area that you're trying to fill right now.
Yeah, so we our business is split up into a couple different, I guess, sort of aspects, if you were to think about it that way. And we've got our frontline roles, which are more operational based, and then we've got our corporate office roles. So anything from IT, finance, communications, like you name it, HR, that's kind of the corporate side. And then on the operations side, that can really span a massive range of skill sets. So everything from, pure customer service type roles all the way into very niche project management and construction type of positions, as well as everything in between, like all the property managers and administrators and all of that, right? So I would say that really our business does have a massive span of skill sets that we're looking for, which also makes it nice because many people can apply to QuadReal. It doesn't mean, we're just an accounting firm or we're just a construction firm. We really do have many functions. So currently right now, the focus is a lot of accounting and finance roles, but usually classically in the fall, our operations side starts to really ramp up. So I could see the customer service type roles starting to flow in now. So.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. And Jennifer, from your perspective, I know we talked that you're gearing up now for the winter recruitment for campus. Can you highlight for us what are some of the skills that you look for in early talent hires?
Yeah, and I think to back on what Jodi was saying is to work at QuadReal does not mean you have to be a real estate guru by any means. There are plenty of roles where we're looking for a variety of transferable skills. And it does not mean you have to be a licensed real estate agent or broker or have graduated with a real estate degree. There are a lot of degrees that are very much applicable and sought after within the various roles and teams here at QuadReal. So I think really it becomes very team dependent, role dependent for your skill set. So like Jodi was saying, we have lots of accounting and finance right now, which means we're looking for a variety of skills. Maybe you're pursuing your accounting degree right now. Perhaps you're working towards something within the finance realm. You have heavy Excel skills. You can do up financial modeling, performas, all sorts of things like that really make you stand out for some of the roles here. But then so does customer service and being able to work with clients, speak to people, and be able to help us continue to achieve at the level of customer service we would like to have with all of our customers and clients. So I think it really does kind of drill down to the role you're applying for and then how to leverage your current skill sets, academic, professional, and transfer that to each role.
That's really helpful, Jennifer. Thank you so much. I think especially for those who are, interested in getting into the industry or who don't have, as you said, that real estate experience, but are really wanting to get their foot in the door with QuadReal. I'm just wondering, just to build on what you said there, do you have any tips or suggestions for international students in particular, maybe who are new to Canada or who are career switchers, to get into the world of work in your industry?
I think the important thing is when you're reviewing your job description or our job description, for instance, you're really wanting to look for the standout words. What are we looking for? But then really take the time to look at your own resume and really think about what you've done in your past roles. There are transferable skills in everything we do, whether you're a barista at the local coffee shop, you're working at the grocery store, the bookstore, or you have professional corporate experience. It's really just understanding and taking the time to write out everything you did in your role, and then being able to then transfer that to the job in which you're applying for. So you have a lot of applicable skills. And I think that's where sometimes candidates can get hung up is they will read one job description and be like, oh, I don't have that. Oh no, and then give up. But really, if you just sit down and take the time to look at what they're asking for in the job description and understanding that you may not have everything, but you may have some of the things. So let's leverage those things, call them out in your resume, call them out in your cover letter, make sure you're highlighting them. So when individuals like myself and Jodi are looking at your resume, we see those key things start to jump out. And that is what makes us be like, hey, good candidate, let's shortlist, let's have a phone screen, let's just explore this more.
Thank you so much for that. And it's good to hear that you're actually looking at the applications because I get that question a lot. Is it AI looking at it? Are there keywords? Are people actually looking at the applications? It's you. That's good. We're meeting the screeners.
Everyone.
Amazing. That's great news. At QuadReal, there are real people looking at cover letters and resumes and applications. Jodi, did you have anything to add on that question in terms of any advice for international students and how they can sort of break in to this industry, or any other thoughts on the transferable experience?
Yeah, I would totally agree with Jennifer on that point, just really making sure the resume, wherever possible, is highlighting those skills that do align. And then just being mindful of your language, right? If you are truly targeting real estate or, some vertical within real estate, think about, maybe changing that objective statement or adding a little bit of language about your motives, because I think a lot of managers are also looking for that as, is this person just blanket sending resumes out, or are they truly interested in our industry? So I think that's also important, is just be mindful of, any time when you're tweaking a resume to really make sure it is addressed to the right person, or it's addressed to the right job or whatever, and not too generic. I think the customization piece is probably very important at this time.
That's really useful. And then, if we think about QuadReal as a company, every company has their own culture and their own values. when students are preparing for an interview, let's just say they do get shortlisted and they're meeting with you and Jennifer, do you have any suggestions or tips that you can share with students when they're preparing for an interview?
I think from the early talent side, when preparing for an interview, make sure that you remember which role you're coming to engage about, talk about. Don't come to the call and just regurgitate our website. We know what the website says, we know the information in there, but going back to Jodi's point, connect yourself to our company, connect yourself to the industry, connect yourself to the job. That's really important to see kind of what motivates you to want to apply, and just tell us that. And I know it's easy to say like, oh, don't be nervous. We're just here to have a conversation and learn about you. It's still nerve-wracking. And we as recruiters understand that during the call, but just want you to be yourself, share with us your why, what's intrigued you to want to apply. So I think prep yourself in that sense of coming in calmly, be yourself. Don't rehearse too much in the sense that you have a script in front of you. Please don't be chat GPTing during the interview. Don't be your authentic self. And that is what allows us as recruiters to connect to you, but also to connect to your application more, understanding, and then allows for us to have a really good conversation and draw upon your past experiences, all of that during that time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Jodi, anything that you'd like to add or build on?
I think really just, I couldn't agree with Jen more on this. I think just building a little bit of rapport with the person you're chatting with is so vital. I can't tell you how many managers I talk to that are like, I just really didn't feel like it would be a cultural fit. They have the technical skills, but I just didn't really feel like the vibe with that person. And that's going to get you a long way, right? If you can build a little bit of a rapport with the recruiter or the hiring manager, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could just be like, what did you do this weekend? Did you enjoy the weather? Like something really simple, but it just breaks that ice down a little bit. It's really key, I think.
Mm-hmm. And this is tough, I would say, for newcomers, maybe who don't have a lot, or don't feel like they have a lot in common, with the hiring manager just yet. So how would you describe, you mentioned the word vibe and, like the culture, at QuadReal, like how would you describe the vibe and the culture, at QuadReal?
Do you want to take that one, Jen, or do you want me to?
I think I'm often asked this a lot, is like, what's your culture like? And I would say across the board, we're a very open company. It's very collaborative. Everybody speaks to everybody. Like you can walk past anyone's office, say hello, stop, chat, obviously if they're free to do so. So I think it's really cultivated internally that we all want to learn from one another. If you have a question, ask it. There's always somebody available. We're also very inclusive in the sense that our organization provides lots of opportunity for you to, I guess, like break out of your desk, break out of your team and meet new people. And by engaging with new people, you learn new things about the organization. You learn about teams that maybe you didn't even know existed. I'm sure there's times, well, I know there's times for me and probably same for Jodi, where we learn about a role or a team or they're working on a project that we're like, oh, I didn't know we did that. Like, that's really cool. So there's always learning opportunities. And I think that is really embraced within QuadReal, is to continuously be learning, asking questions, engaging, networking.
Great. Thank you. That's actually one of my next question is sort of how do students meet people in order to sort of build the trust or build rapport with individuals at QuadReal? Are there any networking opportunities? Where can they actually network or meet professionals at QuadReal?
Yeah, I think on the early talent front, we do attend a variety of events at other post-secondary institutes across Canada. We may not always end up at every single college or university because there's a lot, but we try to market out where we're going to be. We also host virtual events, which allows us to engage with even more individuals that maybe are not close to a campus or attend a campus that we're hosting an event at, so that you can come on virtually, hear from a panel of speakers, get introduced to former interns or current interns, and really be able to engage with the peer group. I think engaging with the peer group is a great way to get yourself in. And then from there, leveraging those networks to engage with more individuals. I know on the experienced hire side, Jodi and her team also host coffee chats, which allow for individuals interested in learning more about QuadReal to join those chats, hear about the teams that are hiring, application tips and pointers, processes, and that sort of thing. So there are means to engage and broaden your network. Also, I would say probably linking up with all of our social media channels. That allows you yourself as an individual to get a feel for culture. If you're checking out our Instagram, if you go on LinkedIn, you can check out our corporate page. That introduces you to a lot of the projects that we're securing and working on, as well as introduces to different teams and individuals within the organization. And from there, you can kind of build out, start to reach out to individuals. I think Jodi and I both can say that individuals at QuadReal are largely open for connecting and chatting. It really just comes down to time and availability on their schedules. But I would say it's a high chance that you'll be able to connect with somebody. But again, not everybody checks their LinkedIn. Not everybody is, frivolous with like writing back and that sort of thing. So it's really just getting that one in.
Yeah, and I would just add by saying, I just actually popped a couple little other affiliate organizations that a lot of our managers attend these events. And I can't tell you how many times I've chatted with students or candidates that have said, oh, I met, so-and-so at this event, or they were speaking at the event and I got a chance to meet them. So industry events are a really good way to make connections as well. And certainly if you're following our company or some of our leaders on LinkedIn, they'll be announcing some of those places they're attending. So I think it's great to, to try to join all of that as much as you can. And again, if you're, specifically interested in, construction or development or like technology or something like that, you can even hone in deeper and kind of, really get to know some of those leaders because they're quite active in those communities.
And a lot
Thank
of
you so
those industries that Jodi put up and that you may research out, they usually have a lot of student rates to join. It's either a student rate to join for members and or free. So definitely research that. As Jodi said, a lot of our QuadReal employees are members of those associations. They're on boards there. So it's a great way, not just to meet QuadReal people, but you will, but other people in industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, my Q&A is burning up here with tons of questions. So although I do have more questions, I'd rather get to the student questions first. So just a reminder to everyone, I do see a lot of comments in the chat and you need to please put your questions in the Q&A. I'm going to prioritize those so that we ask them in the order that I receive them. So please click the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Right now, you're putting some questions in the chat. I'd like you to please use the Q&A. This way I can be fair to ask the questions in order that they came from. So let's just get right to the questions. We actually had some questions that came in even in advance of this. So I want to ask the students questions first. So she asked, on a resume, where do you look at first? Which part do you spend the most time on?
I'll be honest, the first thing I look at is the experience. Because I kind of take it for a grain of salt that most people are going to have some kind of education, right? So that's kind of the second thing I check, but usually I look at their experience and kind of what they've been up to. So that would be my very first thing, but I guess maybe even before that is just the general layout, right? If it's just a spaghetti mess, then it's hard to look at. Sometimes it's like, oh, wow, okay, what am I looking at? So I think it just depends on the formatting, but usually for me, it's the experience that I just check it out first, just to see like, what have they been up to? And then drill deeper.
Okay, okay. And for that experience, do you read the whole line or you just skim like the first couple words on the resume?
I think that depends. If it's, 10 years old and it's working at a cafe and they've applied to an accounting role, probably not going to go through every single line of that job. But as we get more relevant, then yes, absolutely looking through every single line to make sure there's some, relevant experience, and kind of how deep is their experience, right? Are they a manager of people, or are they actually doing, so you kind of want to see like what level they're at. So yeah, I read
Okay,
pretty deep into it.
okay. Okay. And for those who have international experience, would, do you have any suggestions on, what they could do on their resume that can help you see that they do have that direct experience? Because some of the companies might be different, or, they're in real estate, but it might be a little bit different. So any suggestions there on how do you look at international experience?
Yeah, and it just goes back to what we said before. For me, and I'm sure everybody's faced, that as a sort of a hurdle, is just like, oh, there's no Canadian experience on the resume. That's going to hurt me. But I personally never really look at that so much. I always think, okay, that doesn't really matter to me. Like that, if somebody's built a shopping center in, another country, to me, that's like, great, that's what we're doing. That's what we need.
Okay.
But again, what did they do on that project, right? Are they the lead of the project? Did they do, more the administration? Like, I want to get to the meat of what they did. So kind of like what Jennifer said, you want to make sure that it like actually mirrors the job description. And you're not, sort of, again, just blanket sending resumes out. Because you may come across as like way too senior for a role, because you haven't like really honed in like, oh, this is actually like an administrative role. So let me just pull out all that experience and kind of drop some of the high level stuff down to the bottom, type of thing. So it's more
Okay.
about like, how does it match the role than anything.
How does it match the role? Okay, great. That's good. That's very helpful and encouraging. Jennifer, this one's for you. Do you think one or two lines of career and of a career objective at the top of the resume is important?
I think it depends on the format of your resume. Some people have it in there, some people don't. Some people save it for their cover letter. But again, that is like your elevator pitch. So you're kind of helping connect yourself to the position you're applying for, the industry. So I think if it's a very thoughtful and well said first couple of sentence, I think it is beneficial, and then not just like a please like accept my application for whichever position you're applying for. Like make it very meaningful and really tie yourself to that position you're applying for.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I've got a question here from Christian. He would like to ask, according to your experience, international graduates should apply to entry-level positions, no matter if they have relevant experience in a specific field. Do you think it is possible to get a job higher than an entry-level position if you have relevant international experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, again, there's like, not going to sit here and lie and say there's no, no bias out there. It's true. That's why we're here today. It's to talk about that. But we hire people that don't have Canadian experience. If it's the right experience, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. I've got another question from Yashvi, who's saying, how can I start my career in real estate? I'm a chartered accountant from India, equivalent to a CPA here. I'm pursuing my MBA at Trinity Western University in Langley, BC. Currently working at a large financial institution and sees some clients for mortgages. He's really fascinated and interested in real estate, and he wants to explore opportunities. What opportunities would you suggest that he starts with in real estate?
I think it would be really important to take time to peruse through job descriptions that are up, job postings that are up, and see what you connect with. Because just going based off experience, yes, is important, but where does your passion lie? Do you want to continue in with the numbers? Do you want to be more people focused? What are you looking for to continue to build your professional experience? So one way to do that is start to peruse job descriptions, whether it's ours or others, or you go on a job board, for instance, and just type in, real estate, whatever it may be, because I think it's important to really connect with the job you want to do because it has all the bits and pieces that really tap into your passion. Because I could say, yeah, for sure, go check out real estate debt. That's a good one. Maybe go check out, accounting in real estate. There are a variety of accounting fields within real estate that help support the greater of the organization, whether it's development accounting, property accounting, corporate, international, investment management. The list is long. But again, I really think it's important to make sure that that's what you want to do. And maybe something else catches your eye that you can transfer your skills to.
Great. Thank you so much. I have an ice cream truck passing. I don't know if you guys can hear. So if anybody wants ice cream, then you can let me know. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I have another question here from a student who says, I have over 2 years of experience in construction as an assistant project manager and estimator. Along with another year, I'm going to be trying to get into the real estate field. What I want to ask is, are there any other certifications required to get into the same position with QuadReal? So it's an assistant project manager and estimator in construction.
That's a good one. There are some construction industry certifications. There's obviously the PMP, which is good if you want to get into like a pure project management role. So those would be kind of ones that I would pursue. I don't find the managers like overly fussed about that. Even when we have a pure project management role, they're not like, oh, this person doesn't have PMP, I'm not going to even look at them. It always again goes back to the experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Farheen. I see your question here. Farheen is saying that she's a graduate from the Global Business Management program, and she's interested in human resources. She's wondering if there are any opportunities for recent grads in HR in Vancouver or in other provinces. She's flexible.
I think we just literally filled 2 HR positions between Vancouver and Toronto. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jodi. I think that they're like filled. There might be one more. I'm not
There's
sure.
one new.
Oh, there's one new one. There you go. That's how fast it can happen.
Yeah, there's a brand new coordinator role, and I believe it's open to both Toronto and Vancouver, as far as I can recall. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Farheen, please take a look and apply online. Are there any other ways that you advertise your jobs, or what's your preference for getting candidates to your open jobs right now, Jodi?
They all funnel back to our website. So whether you apply on LinkedIn, Indeed, or any of the other aggregators, they all come back into our main candidate tracking system. So it wouldn't matter where they apply. It just all comes back into the same bundle.
Okay.
So yeah, no one preferred method.
Wonderful. Well, we're talking to the right people here. So I'm so excited for you, Farheen. So please take a look online on the website, and anyone else interested in HR, there is one open position right now. I have a different question from a different function. Calp is asking if you could maybe dive deeper into IT infrastructure, or are there any IT opportunities within QuadReal? What would those kinds of roles look like?
Do you want me to take that one, Jen?
Yeah. You're wrong.
That's an interesting question, because up until recently, we only had like plug and play systems. We never did any development at all, but that's changing. We're starting to do some of our own in-house development. We obviously have a very large infrastructure team focused very much on, like Microsoft Suite. And we have some pretty large, I guess, software systems as well. So we've got like our ERP system that we use, and an HRIS system. So there's actually a large IT team. I want to say there's at least over 65 people working in IT.
Okay.
In terms of jobs, there's only one right now. It's called Power Platform Developer, and I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So I couldn't even speak to that role because I'm not recruiting for it. But I've seen everything from like network administrators, cybersecurity, project managers, obviously, business analysts, like every function you can imagine in IT. We've pretty much got it now.
Great. That's really encouraging. I do see some questions from students about, how do I find an internship in IT, after 1 year of studying, and also when do you hire for internships and co-ops? So maybe Jennifer, I can pass that to you in terms of the timing. Would you mind maybe sharing what your recruitment cycle is so the students have an idea of the timing?
Yes, certainly. So we are coming up on posting for our winter. So our winter term here at QuadReal is January to April. We will start posting in the next 2 weeks for those roles. Then our summer term or cohort is May to August, and those roles will be posted the second week of January. So we're always posting ahead of each of the cohorts. And then our final cohort of the year would be the fall. So that would be September to December. And then we will post those roles in the second week, roughly, of May. So we're coming up on starting the recruitment for our winter. I should note we will also be posting for a few of our investment-based internship roles as well in the next 2 weeks. Those are for summer. Just to get a head start, those are pretty competitive, so we like to get ahead of the game there. But largely, that's when you'll see us post. And then we have 3 cohorts that run a year. Typically, we post for 4 months at a time. Some teams try to get candidates or interns that could do an 8-month span, just depending on the team, what projects and such they have aligned. The best way I would say to keep on track with our posting and when things go live is to be following us on LinkedIn. Our corporate LinkedIn page does a post about when we've gone live, when our virtual coffee chat is prior to going live. All of those things will be posted on the main corporate page on LinkedIn, as well as, of course, on mine and our other early talent recruiters. We do post, of course, when we are launching, gone live, all the exciting things that we're doing with our interns. So I would say that is your best bet to stay ahead of the game.
Great. Thank you so much. So I see a lot of questions around co-op and internship needs. So just to reiterate for everyone who's sent in questions, the jobs are posted online. They will be posted shortly. So making sure that you go to the LinkedIn page, you follow Jennifer and Jodi. You also follow QuadReal, and then applying online onto their website is the way that they source candidates and review your application. So I see that also have some questions around advice for recent grads who have just graduated. Same thing, just to reiterate, all of the jobs are posted on the careers website at QuadReal. So it is an open funnel and an open channel for you to apply and get through to be seen for these open jobs, whether it be internship or co-op. I see a question here from Juan around part-time jobs for the summer term. And I had a conversation earlier with Jennifer on this. All co-op jobs are full-time and they would be for 4 months. She also just mentioned as well that those might be extended to 8 months. So if you're looking for part-time, there might be one opportunity to look out for, right, Jodi? Do you want to maybe quickly mention in case they see that on your postings?
Yeah, so our retail shopping centers have what's called a guest services representative. And it works perfectly for students because it is usually between 15 to 25 hours a week. And so it's pretty flexible because they hire, a multitude of people, so their schedules can all kind of, work together. And it's a great way to just, kind of, not to use this term, but get the foot in the door, right? It's just it's a customer service role. It's very front-facing client. So it's really good to have on the resume. And very often we get people getting promoted up from that position. So they'll, maybe stay in that role for a little while and they maybe become the supervisor, or they go on to do administrative work within the retail center or leasing. I've seen so many people get promoted from that position. So it's a great feeder role. And indeed it is part-time.
Great. Thank you so much. I just want to give a shout out to Samji, one of our Devant ambassadors. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Samji's asking, it's such a pleasure to be a part of this discussion. Could you please tell us what could set me apart from my peers, not in the technical skills or experience, but as a person? What would make a candidate have you think, I definitely need to talk to this person?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm asked that a lot. And I think on the early talent side, I would say for us, it is seeing also how you demonstrate your collaboration. Are you part of teams, like sporting teams, associations, clubs, groups? Are you working with a larger team for a greater cause? So I think for us, that again hones into like our culture base, which is a lot of collaboration, working together. And one way to show that is that you are part of teams, whether, you know, it's association based, it could be sports teams. Those all add great value to you as an individual, but also to your application. But it also creates connectivity points, right? Like there are a lot of people that really connect with sports, but then there's a lot of people that really connect with book clubs, different associations, different groups. It doesn't just have to be athletic based. So I think it's really important to showcase that. And I know I look for that on resumes. Where and how are you connecting in with people? And it can also be a matter of volunteering. Are you a volunteer? An ambassador, for instance, that's a great one. And are you giving back to community? And if so, how? Whether that's to your fellow peer groups, to your cultural base, whatever it may be, I think that is extremely valuable and helps people stand out because you're going above and beyond. Jodi, I don't know if you see other things that you look for on yours, but I think that's a big one for us.
Thanks, Jennifer. Great. So along those lines, I have a couple questions from students who are just finding it really hard to get their first job in Canada because they don't have any Canadian experience. So, you know, the big challenge that newcomers face is how do you get Canadian experience if we don't get a first job in Canada? So until they have it, it's a big circle, right? No job, no Canadian experience, no job, no job, no Canadian experience. So you mentioned a little bit about, you know, volunteering, Jennifer, and making contribution to the community. You know, are there any, you know, specific organizations or anything that pops into your mind in terms of, you know, how can people sort of get some kind of experience in Canada while they're searching for a job?
I think leveraging also the job boards through your campuses and even maybe looking to try to get something on campus. I know that can be very competitive amongst itself to get because just sake of convenience as well. But I think really looking for those opportunities, call outs for volunteers. I think there's lots of opportunities to help out with different like student groups, even like on the high school level. Just being able to give back on that front really starts to help and like can be showcased as Canadian based experience. Volunteer experience is just as valuable, I think, especially when you're trying to break into an industry. And then I really think that there is nothing against getting experience outside of the industry in which you're trying to get into just to build your resume. And whether that's being able to then showcase that customer service, customer excellence side of your skills and that sort of thing, to be able to showcase that would be my suggestions. Is just try to leverage whatever's available to you. And I know it can be extremely frustrating. And I think right now is in general a frustrating time for anybody looking for work because, you know, the job market's tight, the unemployment rate's high. Like there are a lot of things making it extremely competitive out there. And I've had many talks with students that are very stressed out about upcoming graduation. I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And the job market and that sort of thing. So I think just trying to take a step back, take a breath, reevaluate what's available, get your application ready to suit those roles.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I feel like I'm making you talk so much tonight. Feel free to grab some water or something. I know we've got like so many questions. I have like 20 questions in our queue and more coming in on the chat. So feel free, if you want to also respond to any in the chat as well. I'm going to try to get to them after, guys, but please try to use the Q&A. So I've got another question actually from Pratik, and I think this is one that would apply to everybody might be thinking about it. Can reaching out to talent acquisition folks on LinkedIn for an informational interview be an appropriate way to engage?
I can probably take that one. I guess yes and no. Why we've created the coffee chat is because we get so many requests for that. So it's an easy way to kind of service that need, I guess, without tapping our time completely. Like, I'll be honest, if I addressed every single person who asked me for an informal chat, I would literally be 24 hours a day. So I think that's a great way for talent acquisition teams to bulk chat with candidates. So that's one way that we've been able to do that. I mean, let's be honest, most talent acquisition people are probably getting bombarded with those requests. So how often they ever go back to someone and say, sure, no problem, I've got time, I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I don't have time to address every single one. And so I don't feel like it's fair to say to one person, sure, I'll take you, and then everyone else, no. So I've just gone with that coffee chat method because it just is a way for me to chat with lots of candidates at once and not be playing favorites. So.
Yeah.
So it's really comes down to like capacity, why maybe talent acquisition professionals might not be able to respond to you or your LinkedIn requests. And I think that it, might differ in different organizations, but for popular companies like QuadReal, who do hire a lot and have great opportunities, and it's a great company, they've got quite a bit of volume. So, I hope that answers your question. I would say continue to take a look at some of the suggestions that Jodi gave us in the chat. She gave us a link for different events where you can meet people in industry events. I also have some questions from students who have taken like hospitality management or global hospitality management, but finding it hard to break in. For someone of that background, are there any roles or jobs that would be applicable that you might have coming up today or in the future?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
I think hospitality is an untapped territory for us and that we are starting to hone more into, especially on our property management side. That's a big one. Your skill set is what we're looking for. We want people that are trained in customer excellence and achieving that gold level service to customers and clients. So I think starting to pivot in your hospitality training and looking at property management. And we're talking like property management of portfolios and buildings and overseeing the health and wellness of that building and ensuring our clients, so those leasing, their needs are being met. So I think anything on the operations side is a great place for hospitality to start, whether it's guest services, like Jodi noted with that part-time position, property administration, property management, all of those areas, I think, provide a really great career path for people trained in hospitality.
Thank you so much. That's really good information. So for those of you, I know we've got some students here from Centennial College and the Global Business Management program. I know there's hospitality programs as well across Ontario that we have a lot of students who have pursued that. So that's really good information to look into property management roles and looking at building management. On the flip side, of quite a different background, Inder is asking, currently enrolled in mechanical engineering. What else could he do to make his career options brighter and get more opportunities for jobs? Do you look for individuals with mechanical engineering backgrounds?
Yeah, 1000%. So also becoming a really hard to find skill set is building technology. And oftentimes we pull people out of mechanical engineering principles to get them upskilled into our building technology group. And I would say that all of our managers are always looking for that sort of educational background because it's just a great foundation to kind of start from. So yeah, like I would say that's something that we're constantly looking for as mechanical engineers.
Oh, that's great news for that student and for any others studying mechanical engineering. How about architecture? Are there certifications and training necessary to pursue any architecture roles? I'm not sure if you have any types of roles like that at QuadReal.
I have never seen any architect. I think we probably use third party for most of that. At one point we did have a small design group, but it was really minimal and it was more like interior design. It wasn't so much on the like true like building design. So I think we mostly use third party firms for that.
Okay. Okay. I have a question again on networking. What would you recommend as a good approach, especially in university and public job fairs, to build a connection? It's a big question. It goes back to building rapport, right, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think coming, I think when I'm at job fairs and when a student comes up to me and is like, QuadReal, what's that? Then I'm always like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I think come prepared, do a little bit of research, even like stop and bust out your phone, do a quick Google so that you're coming a little bit. You don't have to know everything, but I think that helps. And then you can start off by saying, I see that you're a commercial real estate company. Like, what all does that mean? And like, you can really start chatting and opening up the doors to conversation, which then leads to like, what are you studying? What are you interested in? And then it goes from there. So I think, again, coming forward with a little opener, a little pitch about yourself. Some students come with that kind of elevator pitch on the spot that's really kind of taking all of their experience and summarizing it very nicely. But I think don't come to up to a recruiter at a career fair or a networking event and be like, oh, I see you work at QuadReal, then why would you hire me? And it's like, let's reapproach that. So I think really coming prepared for the conversation, and being able to represent yourself, sell yourself, and then just look to kind of build off of that with your recruiter. I've even had students come up to me and they simply start off by saying like, how have you been today? Must have been a long day. How many students do you think you've talked to today? And really kind of break that funny ice with you. And then from there, it just leads to natural conversation. So you don't have to come up super structured and super formal to connect with somebody. Don't feel you have to be super corporate-y to really engage with somebody. Again, leading back to be your authentic self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just 100% agree with that. I think when you can just see that glimmer of a person behind the facade, it just changes the game. So use every opportunity you can to network and show your personality. Don't be afraid of humor. I think that goes a long way. Obviously tasteful, but I think really it does set you apart because not everybody's doing that, right? They're coming to Jennifer's point, very buttoned, very rehearsed, and then you just blend into the crowd. I think it's better to go the other way and just show your personality a little bit. And again, be tasteful and be mindful, but yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think this is all really good information. And I just want to underline and highlight what Jodi and Jennifer are sharing with you right now in terms of, do your research, but at the same time, you want to show who you are and make that connection. Don't be afraid, to be yourself, I think is what I'm hearing from Jodi and Jennifer. And that they're really looking for connection. So, I always say to students, you're all very unique. So although that there's a process, and there's sort of ways for them to get applications, I hope what you're taking away from this, they want you to be yourself. And show up, with your relevant questions, but also be prepared. So I see some questions here, that I'm not going to ask actually, because we've already covered some of these, but I've got over 20 questions still. So I'm just trying to go through the ones maybe that have not been covered. So just as a recap, I'm seeing a lot of questions around how do they apply to jobs? Where are the jobs? So if you go onto the QuadReal Careers website, all of the jobs are posted there, even if they are advertised in different parts or different, job boards or different sources, they all lead to the QuadReal job board. In addition to that, Jodi and Jennifer have given some suggestions on networking and meeting professionals in industry, and they will be hosting coffee chats and, potentially other events across the country or virtually where you can meet them. And today is a great opportunity as well. You're getting to ask your questions and understand about the recruitment process. So hopefully this is helping to answer a lot of your questions. I'm seeing also some questions around marketing, Jodi and Jennifer. Do you have any comments or thoughts around students who have junior experience but want to get into marketing? Maybe Jennifer, I can ask you for that one. And then Jodi, I've got some students who have like over 5 years of experience in marketing. Does QuadReal look for marketing and communications, and at what level?
We do have a corporate communications team within our corporate office, but then also in and on property level, we have marketing teams as well. So I think there's a variety of ways. We do sometimes have internships that are supporting our projects, so our properties with their marketing, as well as our corporate team. So they do come up. Largely, you'll see them in the summer pop up for the summer co-ops, that May to August. So they are there, they do exist. I can't speak to how often they come up on the experienced hire side, Jodi can, but they do exist.
Okay.
Jodi, for you on the experience, what would you do?
Yeah, it's a funny timing on this question because we've actually done a ton of hiring on the communications front and marketing, both at the property level. Like we've just kind of launched a few new buildings, and so in that they need a marketing manager. But also at the corporate level, we've had a few people get promoted and just changes and things like that within that team. So ironically, we've actually had a lot of hiring on the marketing front, and it does span all levels. What I was going to say, going back to that guest services representative role, is that even has a little bit of marketing in it. And I actually posted in the chat an assistant community manager, which also has a bit of marketing, both fairly junior roles, but they give you that real nice little step into property management and give you, like, I call it a tasting menu, because you get to do a bit of leasing, a little bit of marketing, admin, and whatnot. So those are two great roles to start with.
That is wonderful news. I was just sort of typing some responses to students who also had marketing questions. So that seemed to be another functional area. So it looks like we've got quite a diverse group here. I'm so excited to meet all of you. We've got finance, accounting, we've got, global service, our hospitality management, we've got engineering, we've got marketing. So hopefully we can help make some connections for QuadReal and our students who are in these different colleges and universities in Canada. I see some more questions coming in, a different type of question, cybersecurity. I know that you talked already about technology, but I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts or if there are any interesting projects that you wanted to highlight that's happening at QuadReal right now in the technology or cybersecurity area.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. Our security team is pretty lean, so you don't see a ton of opportunities when it comes to that. But one interesting thing that we're really starting to put a lot of focus on is the integration between the buildings and the actual IT security. So there's a bit of a need there to secure those buildings, right? There's all kinds of data that comes off the systems. It's it should be very secure. And so that security team has now sort of connected with our building technology team, and the security piece has become very important for them. So that's kind of a big project for us right now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And are there any other exciting projects or developments outside of IT that you're excited about? Or, I know that you mentioned shopping malls or some of the development and construction that's happening at QuadReal. Are there any other types of projects that are happening at QuadReal that you'd like students to be aware of?
Oh, I feel like there's always something somewhere, so much so that I get lost in it all. I know there was like a huge deal that happened in the States where QuadReal is supporting in purchasing one of the Burbank film studio building things that they have. So there's lots, I think, going on. The Oak Ridge Town Center project out here in Vancouver. Both Jodi and I are stationed in our Vancouver office. So that's a huge one. The Post, where Amazon is in downtown Vancouver, is a big one. So I think there's some really big projects that are now live, which is kind of cool to see it all coming together. Leasing opportunities being snatched up and everybody moving in and things really kind of hitting the ground. So I think all of that's cool. And there are a ton of other projects happening, like with our cybersecurity and data architecture teams, with really trying to bring things to light and tapping into the AI industry, AI world. So lots there, I think, coming to head.
Great, great. Well, I see we're at 8 o'clock now, so we're at time. I hope that this was helpful for everyone. I know we've got some more questions. Some of these are very direct and personal questions. So I just want to invite our students to please reach out to us on www.devant.ca. I will also add my email at the bottom of the chat here. I am going to save the chat. I know we weren't able to get to all of your questions because there's just so many questions, and I tried to group them as best as possible. Looks like we had over 50 questions, just to let you both know. So definitely popular and really needed. So again, thank you so much on behalf of Devant and on behalf of our students here. I'm just going to take this opportunity to ask everyone if they could just take a moment to share your thoughts and let us know, what you thought of the session today. Would love your feedback. Would you like to see more of this type of conversation? We try to offer these on a monthly basis. I'm also going to sort of share my screen again, just to share with you some upcoming events that we will be hosting. We've got a great set of events coming up. On September the 11th, we've got Finding a Job in Canada. Those are for our client schools. So if you are working with Devant, or your school is working with Devant, you can go to the login page and this event would be for you. Then we've got our public events. We've got a career coach Q&A on September 18th. And then on September 25th, we've got immigration Q&A. I see that there were some questions on immigration. We host these every month. This one is actually sponsored generously by CIBC. How to get a Canadian permanent residence PR with a low express entry score. And then we have another Employer Insights event, also sponsored by CIBC, on Wednesday, October the 2nd. So please go on to www.devant.ca to take a look at the upcoming events, and please do register for those events. Again, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you both, Jennifer and Jodi, for joining us this evening, getting some really great feedback from students. If you haven't already, please do share your thoughts on our poll. I'm just going to end that poll, and then I'm just going to quickly put up another quick poll. Let me go back. Always curious to hear, how did you hear about this event? We're trying to reach more and more students to get this information out. Please take a moment to let us know, how did you hear about this event today? We'd love to make sure that we are using the right appropriate communication to reach you. Where you normally do social media, the Devant newsletter from the school, or from the Devant school portal. So would really love your feedback. I really appreciate your participation in some of these polls. I'll just wait a couple more seconds. We still have quite a few people here. Great. So it looks like, just going to share the results. So from your school and the Devant newsletter, that's great to know that those mediums are working. And then finally, I'm going to ask, would you recommend this session to a friend? We've got another one coming up. Please let us know if you found this useful. Again, everyone, all the best to you. Good luck. I will stay on afterwards if anyone has any burning questions that you need to ask me, because I know there were some questions in the chat, and I'm also going to save the chat as well. So great to see. We've got almost 90%. Would definitely recommend this to a friend. So thanks again so much for your authentic answers, your openness, and your advice today, Jennifer and Jodi. We really appreciate it. Two of our amazing recruiters from QuadReal.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good evening. All the best to you. See you later.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.